Today I'm going to be talking about Johann Sebastian Bach and how he wrote a mashup. Well, first question you might have is, who is Bach? Well, quite frankly, you can Wikipedia it. So he was born in 1685 and he died in 1750, so, you know, composer of what we call the Baroque period, and I personally put the rock in Baroque. He's actually probably most famous for writing this piece. Today I'm going to be talking about this mashup, which actually in Bach's language was called quodlibet. Now let's just quickly look at the Oxford Dictionary definition of a quodlibet. A light-hearted medley of well-known tunes. So yeah, literally it's exactly the same as if you had Ty Dolla $ign, Kanye Swift, you know, whoever's famous these days, all mashed up into one great massive tune. Bach actually wrote several quodlibets because he was a bit of a mashup fiend. This one is from the Goldberg Variations, which is based on this bass line. Here we go. That's the first phrase. It's the second phrase. So you already hit C. That's 8 bars, 8 bars. It's a very kind of symmetrical, same kind of shape going on. And then this is the last phrase. So that's the theme. 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, which makes 32. And there are actually 32 variations, 32 iterations of this bass line throughout the whole piece. So in the back of Bach's mind, there's this kind of mathematical architecture going on, with, you know, 32 happening at several different layers. So just to give you a brief idea of what these Goldberg variations are like, here's a very quick clip of this guy called Gould recording variation number 5. So I just picked one at random, basically. You should check out Gould, actually. He's a really interesting guy, massive eccentric. He refused to sit in any chair but his special chair that I think was made by his dad or something. And even in the middle of summer, he'd wear gloves and coats and scarves, all that kind of stuff, because he was a massive hypochondriac. So one other thing I just should quickly probably mention about the Goldberg variations is that every 3 variations, there's a canon. You should probably know what a canon is because it's quite similar to a round. This is a round, London's Burning. London's burning, London's burning, fetch the engines, fire, etc. And you can do this clever thing where one part can follow the other, so you can go London's burning, fetch the engines, fire, fire, fire.
I don't mean to be unkind, but you have one of the worst singing voices possibly in Miami.
But not only does he do that, he finds a tune like that that works on the bass line that we've already got. And then also, he puts the canons at different intervals. So when it goes...
Awful.
Something like that. And it doesn't actually work with this particular tune, but he makes a tune that works with this bass line and canons at different pitches, which is a feat of absolute mathematical trickery. So here is an example, variation 18, which is canon at the 6th. So this is the tune that works above the original bass. Now we have the same melody played a little bit later, but pitched up 6 notes. And then he adds a funked up version of our bass line.
Better hope there's a lot of girls listening to this with the volume turned down.
So if he does a canon every 3 variations, when he gets to variation number 30, the 10th canon, you'd expect some kind of amazing genius piece of counterpoint, some mathematical trickery that you've never seen before. But actually what he does is the quodlibet, which is based on the absolute bangers of the time. Here's a folk song. So it goes like this. Sorry, my German's not very good. Kraut und Rüben actually means cabbage and beets. The full German means cabbage and beets will drive me away, which is basically saying I don't like vegetables. You might be able to relate to that. And here's another one. According to this translation, it means I haven't seen you for such a long time. Move over here and use your damp duster, which can also mean a sword or a demure girl, all over me. I'll let you work that one out for yourselves, but it's basically some naughty, lewd 18th century pun, which Bach clearly liked because he was a bit of a dirty boy. So I suppose the big question is, why on earth was Bach doing this at the end of this highly academic, clever piece, which was showing off how much of a genius he was? Why was he basically stooping to the level of folk songs and club bangers of the time? Well, there are a few possible reasons. Reason number 1, maybe he thought it was funny. Bach was actually a guy who did have a bit of a sense of humour. He wrote this piece called the Coffee Cantata, which is all about this girl who the dad is worried that he won't be able to marry the daughter off because she's so addicted to coffee. It sounds like the storyline of a sitcom, to be honest. Bach's music is normally quite serious, and he's most famous for writing loads of quite serious church music, so I'm not so sure about that. Maybe he thought music was for everyone, and I think that certainly is true. Even though it's very complicated underneath the surface, this is music that I think you guys can listen to, anyone can listen to it and think this is amazing. But I think there's actually another reason here. The third reason is kind of contained in this book by this man called David Yearsley. By the way, really good book, Bach and the Meanings of Counterpoint. Basically, David Yearsley's theory is that in 1737, just a few years before Bach published his Goldberg Variations, this guy called Johann Adolf Scheibe wrote a letter criticising Bach's music as turgid. Turgidity has led Bach from the natural to the artificial, and from the lofty to the sombre. One admires the onerous labour and uncommon effort, which however are vainly employed, since they conflict with reason. So basically he's saying Bach is being too clever in his music, and therefore the music's sounding kind of jumbled.
That was terrible.
Really?
Oh, dreadful.
So this is Bach's way of going, no,
I'm down with the kids, I'm down with the people, look at me.
And there are actually other examples in this book of Bach doing this, so this is a pretty good hypothesis that Bach was constantly trying to contradict this guy Scheibe's ideas. But why would Bach even care that some small-minded critic is saying your music's rubbish? Well, this brings me on to Bach's character. Bach was actually constantly fighting with his town council authorities. He lived in a town called Leipzig in Germany. If he didn't get better conditions, he would go to the next level, and he, in fact, one time went all the way up to the king, just to ask for better rights. Bach also got into a fight with a bassoonist when he was 20. He called the bassoonist a Tippelvergottist. If you speak German, you'll know that Tippel, well, apparently in dialect means you're a bellend. But this brings me to the question of, why was Bach like this? Well, was it because he had a tough childhood? Well, this is certainly one theory. So I'm actually just going to read a quote from an article here about Bach's childhood. Unfortunately, the image of the young Bach family enjoying a charmed life in a small town is very far from the reality. Bach lost a brother and sister in early childhood, and his mother died when he was only 9 years old. hit by poor sewage disposal and badly organised waste disposal, his father died 9 months later in February 1695. His brother and his sister died when he was young, then his mother died when he was about 9, then his dad died at age 10, so he was an orphan by age 10. And then he had to live with his uncle, who he might not have known that well, age 10. So I mean, that's a pretty tough start in life. And here's another quotation by this dude called John Eliot Gardner. His first school, Eisenach Latin School in Thuringia, Germany, was largely attended by the children of bourgeois tradespeople. However, Gardner said that documents damn the boys as rowdy, subversive, thuggish, beer and wine loving, girl chasing, breaking windows and brandishing their daggers. So they're just like Asbos. They're fighting everyone in the streets. More disquieting were rumours of a brutalisation of the boys, and evidence that many parents kept their children at home, not because they were sick, but for fear of what went on in or outside the school. So John Eliot Gardner proposes here that these experiences must have left lasting scars on Bach. And it seems like it, because he's actually a bit of a dodgy guy, isn't he? But it's these difficult experiences that made Bach into a fighter, and that's why he was always fighting to be the best, and that's why his music is so incredible. We can all take inspiration from this great story. If you've been through difficult times yourself, you can be like Bach, and you can fight to be the best and prove people wrong. And this is why I wanted to talk about the Quodlibet, because these weird folk songs and pop songs being mashed up together is a really cool insight into Bach's personality and life. Anyway, here's a video of me playing the Quodlibet. I hope you enjoy it. For more content like this, please share this with your friends, like this video, and subscribe to this channel. Peace out.